All right, how many people are doing cloud computing in their enterprise right now? Okay, a good many of you. How many people have Internet of Things? A couple. How many people have big data? Pretty much the same hands went up. What's occurring now is we're rebooting our systems within the enterprise. In essence, we're kind of changing the way in which we're approaching computing. So if you look at that as kind of a series of patterns, it's number one, we're moving to public cloud computing. We're in essence outsourcing or outplacing many of our applications and much of our data on systems we don't own or control. We've been doing that for the last 5 years and it accelerated that recently. But we're also dealing with data differently and more effectively. And that's really kind of the common theme of my presentation. So the reality is that your enterprise is along this maturity continuum. So we have preparing for cloud, cloud user, cloud innovator. And preparing for cloud, basically people are getting into cost analysis, enhanced performance, reduced complexity, use of virtual machines. And then as we're moving things all the way up to orchestration, are the ability to, in essence, put solutions together and assemble them and then reassemble them at some time in the future. And we're talking about containers and microservices and all those things that are around these days. That's what that's all about. So the idea is that we're going to have a wide range of services, infrastructure applications, data services, things like that, that we're going to be able to, in essence, stitch together to form solutions. We may own some of those services, we may not, and then we can restitch them together and restitch them together over and over and over again. And we're heading to that, in essence, as a dynamically aligned business, self-adapting, automated governance and security, enhanced business agility. But we're a long way from here, and this is where most enterprises currently are. There's sometimes you find up in preparing for cloud, but the reality is that if the journey to cloud is something like this, we've made about that much of a journey. 1% of our existing assets exist in public cloud computing environments, platforms, and we have a long way to go. So this is about making that journey, in essence, learning how to take those few steps. So we all know cloud's rising. This is the current list of statistics. Within 2 years, 34% of enterprises will have 60% of their applications on the cloud platform, according to 451, which is a pretty good analyst firm, and that aligns with what I'm seeing out there. People are migrating massive amounts of applications to the cloud. They're lifting and shifting. They're bringing up SaaS systems. The existing enterprise ISVs, folks who deal with CRM software and vertically aligned software, are all re-engineering their technology for the cloud. That's something we're doing at Cloud TP. 42% of IT decision makers are planning on to increase spending in the cloud in 2015, with the greatest growth in enterprises over 1,000 employees, 52%. So it depends on where you look as to where the growth of cloud is, but we're at the point where we've got the pilot project over. The public cloud providers have done a lot of work to shore up their infrastructure, to make their products and services better. We're at the fifth or sixth generation of public cloud providers, and now we have the capability to, in essence, put a great deal of our existing applications, our existing data, new systems and old systems that exist in the public cloud than ever before. And so I'm going to call it right now, the mass migration is beginning. So the kind of things we're involved with as a professional service organization is moving 800, 1,000 applications to the cloud. And ultimately, I'll stay away from that guy. And ultimately, this is a journey that most enterprises are undergoing right now. SMBs are moving a little quicker because of the cost advantage, but the Global 2000 is vested in this right now, albeit they're moving very slowly. The Global 1, the government, is moving even more slow. So this is the way the public cloud providers break out. These are the major ones out there. Amazon is the 800-pound gorilla and continues to be the 800-pound gorilla. So they just published their financials recently. They're making a lot of money. They're turning a profit, and they are going to continue to do that. And I think everybody's waiting for them to trip up, but they haven't. Smart people, smart services, lots of points of presence. If they need it in their stack, they engineer it quickly. They're a very agile organization for a multi-billion-dollar organization, and they're moving fast, and we probably see it maybe 70% of the time. Second place would be Microsoft, and Microsoft is like kind of the tortoise in the hare. So they just keep on going and keep on going and keep on going. You don't hear about them as much as the other guys, but they're starting to make some significant impact in the space. IBM is still in there, and then up and coming and actually moving with the largest amount of momentum would be Google with their cloud platform services. So they had an 85% gain in the market, where the others were around 50%, 40% in the space. And Kubernetes and utilization of containers, we'll talk about that later in the presentation, is going to be there. So it's AMG, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google that you need to pay attention to in the space. And those are typically the go-to public cloud providers that most enterprises are going to go to. IBM's still in there, has a nice niche, especially with some primitive native raw disk services that they offer within their stack. But those, in essence, are the players. So the rack spaces and the HPs and the other guys who have been also in the public cloud space for some time are going to niche out. They're going to basically fall out of the market in a very graceful way. They're going to find a position in the market where they're, supporting a vertical or supporting a particular kind of process or supporting a particular kind of application. And that's fine. And we're going to see more and more of this stuff occur over the next couple of years. Mobile devices and cloud growth are linked. So everybody who carries a mobile phone knows that that mobile phone is no good unless it's connected to a back-end service. Whether you're tracking your exercises or whether you're doing accounting, there always has to be a cloud service that backs up mobile computing. So the growth of mobile and the growth of cloud, if you look at it in terms of patterns and growth, in terms of bandwidth, utilization of services, they're tightly coupled. And it's really, sometimes it's hard to separate them one to the other. So mobile computing apps are built on cloud services, storage, those sorts of things. And they're going to continue to be done that way in the future. One of the things that we're seeing in the enterprise when we figured we were moving to public cloud services or public and private cloud services or hybrid services is that many enterprises are using a mix of multiple public clouds and multiple private clouds, multiple traditional systems, multiple managed service providers. And so the architectures that you see out there are not simply migration to Amazon or migration to Microsoft. They're migration to multiple public clouds, migration to multiple private clouds, migration to MSPs. And in essence, we're dealing with this multi-cloud architecture where the simplicity of cloud, or in essence relocating to a new platform, really isn't going to be there. So we're moving from very complex and kind of convoluted architectures that exist within the enterprise to complex and convoluted architectures that may exist in the cloud. And so this is a survey from RightScale that was done last year, and this shows the fact that multi-cloud is 74% of the market out there. So people are finding tools to manage this complexity, to abstract themselves from it, to do better with the resources that they have, orchestration services, container-based services, things like that. So make no mistake, if you're moving into the cloud, you're going to sit in an environment where there's going to be multiple public clouds, multiple private clouds, multiple existing traditional systems, and ultimately the ability to win that market, or basically to make use of that architecture, is to manage it correctly. Have orchestration services such as CMPs, cloud management platforms, identity-based security, things like that sit on top of it. And that seems to be a huge investment right now. As people are starting to move into the cloud, is trying to figure out how they're going to manage the complexity once the migration occurs. Security is becoming a core issue, and it's pretty much solved right now. If you look at all of the major hacks that made the papers in the last couple of years, Home Depot and Sony, there's not a cloud to be found. And the reality is that identity-based security, if it's implemented properly and if it's in the hands of the person who understands what they're doing with security and utilizing public cloud providers, encryption services, identity-based services, things like that, it's absolutely secure. It's just secure if it's in your enterprise, because that's typically where things are being hacked right now. So we're getting out of this kind of odd notion, which I always think is a bit of primitive thinking, where that if we have a cloud, that we don't see it, it exists in other places, therefore it's going to be inherently unsecure. It's unsecure as you make it unsecure. And so while security continues to be the focus, it doesn't seem to be hindering us as we thought it would be maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And really, security wasn't there 4 or 5 years ago. I remember advising people on getting a hack test done on things, and it was failing. Now it's succeeding. We seem to be figured that out. Sure, there are going to be some breaches, but it's perfectly safe to put your stuff in the public cloud. So cloud governance becomes an issue as well. Again, the ability to kind of manage the complexity and manage this infrastructure. And we have to deal with things like contractual agreements, which means lawyers, when it comes down to cloud computing. And believe it or not, I spend probably 50% of my time when I negotiate cloud contracts for my clients, talking to lawyers about SLAs and things like that. Vendor viability continues to be a concern. IT organization design, service portfolio, and security, and it really comes into terms of how we basically govern and manage our clouds. So again, the management aspect of this, the ability to control the services, the ability to, in essence, put an abstraction layer on top of the complexity and leverage the technology to, in essence, make your cloud an agile and controllable asset is really where the push is right now. And that's something you need to figure out. It's not necessarily what cloud you need to use, but assume that you're going to have lots of clouds. You got to figure out a way how to broker the services, manage the services, deal with it at the resource level and at the microservices level. Internet of Things is starting to pick up steam. We're seeing a huge amount of cloud-based Internet of Things growth. You know, whether it's drones that are flying over cornfields to look at how they've been irrigated and getting the information back to the farmers, or gathering information directly off a jet engine to determine if it's going to, using a pattern that's going to go down to a failure. And you want to make sure you understand that before, especially if you're flying the thing. So the ability to, in essence, hook up devices has been something that's around forever, but the sensors are becoming cheap and the communications are becoming cheap. But also we have the ability to kind of analyze the data in the fly, gather tremendous amounts of information off of these devices, and then make assertions based on past patterns as to what's actually occurring. So when an engine is going to fail based on failures that have occurred, 100,000 times in historic data, or more importantly, whether a brain tumor is going to occur in your head from an MRI scan that may not show a tumor, but show certain patterns where in the past they find a causal relationship between those patterns, and you find an MRI. This is an exciting space just simply because we can get an immediate value in this, whether it's saving crops or whether it's saving lives, and leveraging cloud computing because it provides us a commodity platform where the analyzing that data is now affordable, because we can use it as a service, but also marrying what is also a huge trend right now, and that's big data. The ability to deal with real-time analytics and finally get a hold of our information and finally use it in such a way that it really adds value to the business and allows us to control our business better. Data warehousing. How many people had data warehouse systems in the last 10 years or so? That one person. May have been successful in your world, ultimately a failure, because every time we found out about something was wrong with the business, it's always 2 months after it occurred, where we need the ability to have a real-time dashboard and be able to monitor exactly what's going on, and not only monitor ourselves as a human being, but have predictive analytics and the ability to proactively take care of these issues, whether it's managing a jet engine or managing a business, are managing a cornfield. And moving forward, this becomes the ultimate killer application for cloud computing. And as we're seeing clouds that are built up today, they're leveraging migration of applications for sure to, in essence, getting to cheaper and more value-added hosts for those applications. But the ability to leverage big data and leverage your data assets effectively, bringing that value within your enterprise is ultimately the destination we're able to go. And that's all I have. I want to thank you very much. You guys have a great conference.